Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Church of Grace. Today is Wednesday, January 24th, and we are on night number 4 of our financial seminar. We had 1 or 2 pages of notes left over from night 3. We're going to run through those pretty quickly, and then we're going to get into the actual night 4. So we went over 401ks, IRAs. We talked a little bit about investing, and we were going over a couple of different rules for investing, and now we're on rule number 3 for investing, and that is let someone else do it. It is a good idea to let somebody else do your investing for you, and there are several reasons why. Most of us don't fix our own air conditioning, and we don't build our own computers. We let someone that does it for a living and is involved in the industry full-time as a profession to do it. Now, I know we all hate spending money on stuff we don't have to, but I think using a financial advisor is a really good idea. There are 4 reasons we need financial advisors. Number 1, financial advisors keep our investment plan on track. So how much money should we save for retirement at our current age? How can we make up for lost time if we start investing late? Should we change our investing portfolio as we get older? A financial advisor is going to be able to help us with all of those things, and they're going to be able to bring up points that maybe we didn't think of ourselves. And if you think about it, although this is a hobby of mine, I am by no means an expert. This is not my profession. And one thing I hate about this industry is that rules change constantly. Laws change, and they change as you get older. When you hit certain markers as far as your age, the amount you can contribute, where you can contribute, all of these things change along with taxes. And it's worth having somebody that can help keep our investment plan on track. Now, a study from John Hancock showed that 70% of those who work with a financial advisor are on track or ahead in saving for retirement, compared to just 33% of those who do not use a financial advisor. It's just a good idea to do it. And for those of you who are bad at math, 70% is a whole lot better than 33%. And if you needed help with that, it's one more reason you need a financial advisor. Okay, financial advisors can help change your plan as you age. So we're not really going to get into this very much, but one of the ideas when we are investing is risk. And what is our risk tolerance? Well, that's going to change based on our age. Over here, we can be in a place where we have literally no risk. And the reason we have no risk is because we are in a financial instrument that is under a contract, something like a CD at your local bank, and those are insured by the federal government. There are going to be things like bonds. Now, not every bond is no risk, but they are about as low as humanly possible, which is why we're going to put them all the way over here. And they're going to get you, with that no risk, you are going to trade for a lower return. And then you're going to be over here with high risk stuff. And there's nothing wrong with high risk so long as you, number 1, understand it, and number 2, you manage the amount of capital you put in high risk. So for someone like Abram, how old are you? 21, 22? 18. Wow. Oh, my soul. For someone who's 18, who's starting to invest, he can add more capital over here to higher risk, because if he loses a little bit, it's not going to affect him as much. If we're all the way over here with our age, so typically as our age increases, Okay, we are going to move further and further over to this side where we want less and less risk and we just want to not lose. See, over here, when we start out and we're young, we want to gain. We want great levels of gains every year. We want our nest egg to grow, and that's the most important thing. And are we going to lose? Yeah, we're going to lose a little here and there. Not everything we buy is going to go straight to the moon. But as we get older in age, it's not as important that we have gains. It's more important that we don't lose anything, okay? Because we don't have time to make it up. And if we're not young enough, to work anymore, then we want to move over to this. Your financial advisor will help you with this idea. You can do all these things on your own. Not everyone uses a financial advisor. I do. Joanna and I do. What we are teaching you is exactly what we do. We put 15% of every dollar that comes into our house and we send it off to our financial advisor. And I am ashamed to say this, but I've had as much as a year of my life go by where I'm like, I have no idea where my money's going. I'm busy. I haven't called. I haven't checked up. I trust them completely. You should not. But and then, it's like, okay, time to check in. Oh, look at that. Okay, great. Everything's going well. And I just send the money off, and that's it. You should check in with your financial advisor once a quarter, once every 3 months, and just see how things are going. And then I have money that I personally invest where my financial advisor has nothing to do with it. Okay, but we still take that 15% and just hand it off, and we trust the person, but we do check up on them and we verify. Okay, so that's the idea. Any questions on this concept so far? Yes, Pam. No, depending on the circle you're running, a financial planner, a financial advisor is going to be about the same. There's really not a certification that goes along with any of those. There are registered investment advisors. There are certified financial planners. Those are people that take tests and have regulation. But you don't need one of those. You can get one. I actually have business cards of local people that I can hand you. If you have no idea where to start, I can hook you up with someone, go and interview with them, sit down with them, talk to them, get to know them, and see if they're the right fit for you. But yep, to be honest with you, how about this? I have not even asked what the credentials are for the people that I use. For me, what I got down to was they were recommended to me. It was word of mouth. I talked with my friend. They showed me their portfolio and their gains, and I said, well, that's what I want. I'm good with that. If I can get those numbers, I'm ready to go. Where do I send the check? Everyone should be a fiduciary. Your benefit should be at the top of their list. There's probably laws that say that they have to put your needs and your best interest ahead of anything else. But again, it's really in the interview process where if you get a bad feeling, just cross them off the list, and we don't want to use those folks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Okay, let's talk about that. S&P 500 index. Okay, so this, if you say, Patrick, I want to start investing some of my own money and I don't want to use anyone else for it, great. Get your feet wet by throwing money at this. Okay, this is not a bad place to start. So the S&P 500 are the 500 biggest, most wealthy companies in America. They make up the majority of the movement of the stock market. And there is nothing wrong. So what this is going to do, the S&P 500 index fund, when you look up S&P 500 and you see the line going up to the right, what it's doing is it's following the market with these 500 companies in mind. So this index fund is going to spread your money out within those 500 companies, and that is a great way to enter into the market on your own. I cannot see any problem with starting there. So if anyone's like, I want to start investing some of my own money, great. Every pay period, every month, however you're going to do it, you're going to put the same amount of money into the S&P 500, and the goal is you are going to put it in there for a long haul. Your Roth IRA can be, all of the money in your Roth IRA can be in the S&P index. That's fine, okay? If you get a financial advisor, what they are going to do, here's the way it works. I only have so many hours a day to dedicate to following finance. And I shouldn't have used the word hours. I only have so many minutes or seconds a day to follow finance. I'm a busy guy. So that's why I trust my financial advisor to watch out for that. But if you want to, embark out on your own, that's fine. That's a great place to start. I don't think you're going to, do bad if you go there. Okay, let's see. Financial advisors are going to save you time and stress. One thing that happens to a lot of people when they start investing on their own is that they start watching the market to the point where they have a push notification come up on their phone and ding every time the market moves by 1/8%. And people are like, oh no, where are we at? How much did I lose? 15 cents in a day, and people start freaking out about it. So unless if you do go out on your own and you start investing your own money in mutual funds that you find and you think are good, and you find yourself losing sleep at night, you should not be doing it on your own. Okay, most people should not manage their own money. Not all, most people. Most people start to see their investment go down and they panic. Okay, and what are we supposed to think when our investment goes down? Buy. It's on sale. Buy, buy, buy. So if your blood pressure goes up, you probably should not be managing your own money. Because when you give it over to someone else, it's easier to forget about it. It's easier to let go and live your life, and I'm just going to check in. I'm going to call you once a month for a 5-minute conversation. That's the reason that it's better for most people. Let's see. Okay, so talked about that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, jump in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Ask any question you want. What you're going to find is, think of this, where you stand spiritually is going to determine how you spend your money. And where they stand spiritually, you might be getting advice that's not going to line up, or it might be in conflict with yours. Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then that's what you want to do is, and so, I've talked with Rick before, and he's made the same comment that he really likes the person that they're with. Everyone go ask Rick and Barb, hey, who do you use? Go interview them. Okay? I doubt you're going to, end up in a bad place. You should be interviewing lots of people. You should interview a half dozen folks. Okay? If to find one that you like. Talk to your friends about it. Believe me, you have a friend somewhere that loves their financial advisor. Okay? It's no different than they love their doctor or they love this place to go to breakfast. That's how we find things. Louis, what you got? Mm-hmm.
They're trying to understand who you are. So a lot of people I send to my financial advisor, they're like, man, he's asking too much.
Too many questions. Yeah.
He's trying to find out who you are. What are your kids? What are your hobbies? Do you go on vacation?
Yeah.
And it's like being it's kind of like a family member. They understand who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you looking at like? And the good point about the financial planner, they can call you and say, hey, we're seeing the markets in China. I need to talk to you. We need to slide some stuff around.
Sure.
Because they have big analysts behind them saying,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing this, like in the Middle East is a big one.
Sure.
Anything happens over there affects the markets throughout the world.
Yeah.
They call it, hey, we need to move some bonds over here, or we need to move into stock and pull these out.
Yeah.
And that's just over the phone, and it's someone you trust.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
Yep.
So they should be someone very comfortable. Like, what are your hobbies? What do you like doing? You know, where'd you go to school at? What's
Yeah.
your job? You know, that's what I look for.
Yeah, you really do want to have a good relationship with your financial planner. You need to be completely transparent with them. You're going to be telling them how much you make and what your goals are in life and everything. And you need to be, comfortable. And what you brought up about them watching the market and being able to call you up, at home, at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday and tell you, hey, this is going on. I think we should change something, and again, it's because they're watching, where I'm not. I mean, I know what I like putting my money into, and I just throw it in there, and I just forget about it and go to sleep, and I'm waiting for the long haul. All right, let's move on to night 4, which we're starting right now. Night number 4. So, night number 4, we're starting here at, let's see, step 7. Step 7, fill in the blank. Pay off mortgage early. Pay off mortgage early. I'm going to get some pushback here. I don't care. Okay, so there is freedom in being completely debt-free and living in a paid-for house. And you 100% want to have your mortgage paid off before you move into retirement. You want to pay off your mortgage as early as humanly possible. And we talked about why. You are throwing tens of thousands, even $100,000 or $200,000 at interest over the life of the loan for your house if you don't pay it off early. Now, I'm going to go over the myths about why to keep your mortgage in a minute. But I've said it before, and I'm going to say it a bunch more times. Debt is a curse. And we want to be free of curses in our life. Go to Deuteronomy 28, verses 44 through 46, and let's take a look at this. Deuteronomy 28, verses 44 through 46. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So every time we see debt mentioned in the Bible, it is a curse. There is no time in the Bible anywhere where it is looked at as a good thing. Today, I know that people will tell you that debt is a tool. I think those people are a tool. Okay? It makes absolutely no sense if you are a Christian to want to be in debt. People in America want to improve their credit score so they can volunteer to put themselves under a curse of God. Now, let's go to Proverbs 22:7. I'll give you one more. Proverbs 22:7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. In the Bible, God says that those who borrow are slaves to the banks, and I personally don't want to be a slave. Just so we're clear, God explicitly says that borrowing makes you a slave. That also implies that freedom comes from what? Yeah, being out of debt. This is the reason I'm against debt. Now, the most popular argument is people are going to say, okay, Patrick, you have a house, right? You have a loan on your house. You have a mortgage. What's the interest rate on your mortgage? And I tell them, well, my interest rate is 3 1/8. And they're like, wow, that's a great interest rate. They're like, why are you paying off your mortgage early? Don't you understand that if you took your money and you put it into the market, you could be making 10 to 12% on your money? Well, simple math tells you that that means you could be making, instead of putting money towards the house to retire your debt, you could be making somewhere between, 8 to 9% on your money. And then you can save that money up and you can just pay off your house all at once. Okay. So number one, that math is correct. It is correct. Number two, statistically, nobody does it. That's the reason we shouldn't think that way. Nobody does it. Nobody has the discipline to do it. And then what happens is we get comfortable in this idea of debt. And when something happens, when something blows up in our life, we're in this position where we're used to, well, we'll just go into a little bit more debt. And we'll go down the road. Now I'll tell you this, okay? I have friends who are wildly wealthy, okay? Disgustingly wealthy. And they make enough money where it doesn't matter what they do. And they buy a pretty nice new car, and they finance it for 3 years, and they just make the payments. And after 3 years, what do? Buy another brand new car and start making the payments on them. And for them, they make enough money to where it's never going to affect a thing in their life. They came around, they said, you know what? I'm going to try this no debt thing that you're talking about. I'm just going to buy the next one for cash. They could buy 10 cars for cash. They have never gone back into debt for another car payment since. They're like, they say the way you drive it is different. The way you breathe is different. The way you sleep at night is different. There is an emotional, mental, and spiritual, remember, okay, this is a church, I'm a pastor, that's the big one, component to being in debt. And people simply look at it as a math problem, and that is foolish. That is the same way people get messed up on the tithe. That is the same way people get messed up on the Sabbath day. They're like, well, if I work 7 days, I'll do better. I can accomplish more than if I work 6. No, you can't. Well, if I keep 100% of my money, I'll have more money than if I give 10% to my local church. No, you won't. You say, well, Patrick, that doesn't make sense. Well, guess what? God doesn't make sense. Nowhere does God say, I make sense. He says, I'm the creator. I make the rules, and I set it up this way, and you can either get on board or not. He says debt is a curse. He says if I'm in debt, I'm a slave. And anyone that gets out of debt will say the same thing. They will say they feel free. Now, we're going to talk a lot about the Bible next week. We're going to be here for one more week, and it is the most important week. As a matter of fact, anyone that comes next week is getting a free gift from me, okay? Because everything we've talked about these last 3 weeks and tonight is not even that important if we don't understand God's whole idea and his whole plan when it concerning money, and that's what we're going to go over next week. For me, I can only be free to serve God the way he wants if I am no longer a slave. Because all of a sudden, nobody has control over me. I'm supposed to be a slave to God. We were bought with a price, the Bible says. We are not our own, the Bible says. It's not okay that I'm a slave to God, which I willingly make a decision to be, and I'm a slave to this debt. Okay, we're going to leave that there and we're going to keep going. So, before we start paying extra money towards our mortgage, we got to stop racking up new debt. We got to have our emergency fund in place. We need to be on a budget. We need to eliminate our debt. We need to save up 3 to 6 months of our monthly budget, and we need to start putting 15% of our take-home pay. 15% of our income into retirement. If we can say that we're doing all of those 6 things, then we're ready for step 7, and that is paying off our mortgage early. So we are going to pay off our mortgage early while we are investing. Again, this is the reason that it's so important that no more than what percentage goes to our mortgage? 25%. If that starts creeping up, then we will not have the extra money needed to retire the debt on our mortgage, because it'll all be going toward the principal and interest payment. All right, so I'm sure everyone's heard it. Why should you keep your mortgage? I hear people say this constantly. It's a tax break. Thank you. It's a tax break, Patrick. Biggest tax break you have. Why would you ever want to get rid of your mortgage? Do you like paying taxes? Okay, that person's a moron. Okay? And if you say that out loud in front of me, I'm going to call you a moron to your face. It is not a tax break. I cannot believe how many people recite this lie and have never done the math. So you have a $200,000 loan, and we're going to say you have a 5% interest rate on your mortgage. You will pay $10,000 a year in interest. Nobody needs me to go over how that's calculated, okay? $10,000 a year in interest on that loan. Now, if you are in the 25% tax bracket, most of us are going to be, that deduction will save you $2,500 per year on your taxes. You say, well, that's great. $2,500, I don't have to pay on my taxes. What's wrong with that? That sounds wonderful. By the way, Patrick, what about the remaining $7,500? Yeah, you pay that. So you pay the bank $10,000 a year in interest in order to be able to save $2,500 a year on your taxes. That is why the person that tells you that your mortgage is a great tax break is a moron, and they cannot do 5th grade math. It is not a good tax break. That does not sound like a deal. It only cost me $10,000 to save $2,500. If I told you Corvettes were on sale right now, would you go run out and buy one? They're 10% off. Think of all the money you're saving. Well, that doesn't change the fact that there's a sticker price on that thing, and it's pretty expensive. So yes, you are saving some money, but you have to pay a mountain of money to save that little bit of money. Okay, how much do you have to pay in interest every year when your house is paid off? Yeah, none. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Okay. Ways to pay off your mortgage. Make extra house payments. Every dollar you throw at your mortgage payment puts a bigger dent in your principal balance. Okay, so to give you an idea, the way that your mortgage works is that this $200,000 a year mortgage is going to cost you 5% annually, which means you take 5% and you divide it by 12, and that's the amount of interest you're going to pay per month. Make sense? So you take 5%, you divide it by 12, that's the amount of interest you're going to pay per month on the loan. Now, the amount you pay is fixed, which means that year number 2, your total loan amount is lower, which means the 5% of interest you're going to pay for the year is lower, which means the small percentage per month you pay in interest is lower, which means you pay more in the principal. You understand the principal amount versus the interest. So every year, the principal balance goes down, the amount of interest you owe that year goes down, and the amount you pay towards your mortgage goes up. So when you get a mortgage and you make your first payment, now in the digital age, you can look it up on your phone and it'll show you what percentage of the payment went to interest and what percentage of the payment went to the principal. And it's going to say something like $4 went to the principal, and $1,580 went to interest. And you're like, how's this going to work? And what happens is, as we pay down that principal amount, the amount of interest goes down and the amount that we pay toward our principal on each payment goes up. So if we take a lump sum of $10,000 and we throw it at our mortgage on day 1, then the amount that we owe on our mortgage is $190,000. So the interest is going to be 5% of $190,000, not $200,000. So then if you go all the way through the term of your loan, the very last payment is going to be 99.5% principal payment, and it's going to be 0.5% going to interest. You see how that works? I hope I explained that well. I know I went quickly. So every dollar you throw at your mortgage extra knocks down the principal amount, causing less interest the following month, causing more to go toward the principal, causing this number to go down faster. Okay. I think I put a chart in here. I did. Okay, here we go. So let's say that we have let me erase some stuff here. I got too much stuff up here. Okay. Mortgage interest, tax breaks for the stupid. Okay, I have a $240,000 mortgage, and I have a 30-year mortgage with a 7% interest rate. I know we don't want a 30-year mortgage, but that's just what most people have, 30-year. So that's the example that we're going over. You're going to have roughly a $1,600 a month payment, something very close to that. If you made an extra $100 payment every month, so instead of paying $1,600, you pay $1,700. Now that extra $100 goes just to the principal amount. It doesn't cover interest, it goes directly to the principal amount. How much time would you knock off your mortgage if you paid $100 a month extra every month on this 30-year mortgage? You would pay off your mortgage 5 years early, and you would save $66,000 in interest. 5 years, $66,000 in interest. What can you do with $66,000? Well, you can invest for the future and you can retire a millionaire. That's what you can do. You can save up money to pay cash for everything. So you got to remember that debt and interest, these are the traps of the middle class to keep you middle class. Okay? The boat payment, the financing, everything. What do you remember what it was, sweetie? You and I were in my office, and I looked something up on Amazon, and it was something that I wanted to buy, and it was less than $40. I don't remember what it was. Okay, yeah, it was something for my office that I was going to use for my computer, and it was like less than $40. And right next to the price, it said, or 5 small payments and I'm like, $40? They finance everything. They will finance a bag of concrete if you will let them. Because banks are rich based on the interest. That's what they do. Yes, sir. Rick. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, to push the payments off further, not to get it paid down any. Yeah. Yeah, there's no logic there. It's nope, and that's what's going to keep us poor. That's what's going to do it. Okay, so at this point in our financial journey, we should be out of debt, we should be living on a budget, and we should have extra money. So let's imagine that we're in a place where we can throw an extra $500 at our mortgage. Okay, how much extra can you afford to throw at your mortgage payment? You can easily save $100,000 in interest if you have some decent income and you are smart with your money. You can even save 200 grand on your mortgage. I put a chart right there in the notes, and that shows that in the scenario above, a $240,000 mortgage with a 7% interest rate, if you added $100, it shows the amount of time you would knock off your mortgage and the amount of interest that you would save by paying it early. Now, if you go to if you scan the QR code on that page, you can actually go to a debt retirement or a mortgage retirement calculator and enter in all the numbers on your mortgage and then make a decision. I'm going to pay this much extra money towards my mortgage every month. How soon will it be paid off? How much extra money will I save on my mortgage? So it'll do all the math for you. But you're going to find that folks, those hundreds of thousands of dollars in money we pay the bank for the privilege of borrowing money, we don't get anything for that. There's no benefit. Okay, that's all money that we can have and we can use to build our wealth, and instead we're just handing it over. All right, let's see. So we want to make some extra room in our budget. We talked about this last month. We got to get on a budget, and this is the reason why. We want to be able to squeeze that budget and make some extra room so that we can pay off our mortgage early, so that we can save some money for our retirement. We can refinance our mortgage. Now, not everyone should refinance their mortgage, but lots of people should. If you have a 30-year mortgage and you have a high interest rate, you can refinance, get a lower interest rate, and switch to a 15-year mortgage, and you might actually have the same exact monthly payment. And there you go, you just knocked 15 years off of your mortgage. And we talked about that last week, the difference between the two and how much money you're going to save just by having a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30. The same rules apply if you cannot comfortably fit into your monthly budget, meaning the payment is at or below 25% of your take-home pay. If that's the case, you don't want to do it. And don't forget, by this point, your financial plan should be to be out of debt and to be living on a budget. So you likely have boosted your income and lowered your cost of living from the time you first took out your mortgage. So does anyone know what it's called when you get a raise, you get a promotion, you get a raise, you get a promotion, and you spend all that money, and it goes up and you spend it all, and it goes up and you spend it all? It's called lifestyle creep. So as more money comes in, your lifestyle just keeps on creeping up northward and getting better and better and better. All of a sudden, you don't want that bottom shelf caviar. I've never had caviar. I'm never going to eat caviar. It's a joke. Okay? Yeah, all of a sudden I got a promotion and I need a second butler. So we don't want our lifestyle to creep up, okay, with making more money. We want to be smart with that money, and we want to get aggressive with paying off our mortgage. All right, another thing you can do is cut loose the boat anchor. Some people need to sell their house and downsize. I think I told you about a friend of mine that ended up paying 50% for his mortgage payment. And instead of 25, he was at 50. And what it came down to was he was telling me the plan that sounded insane. He said that at their current budget, him and his wife were both going to have to work 2 weekends just to cover their monthly budget if they bought the house that they were going to buy. And I told him, well, let me tell you, if you do that, if you go ahead and buy that house, I would like you to write a book on how to get divorced, because you will be divorced in under 5 years, because you are going to want to blow your brains out if you are forced to work 7 days a week, 2 weeks out of the month, just to be able to pay your house. That house is not a blessing. That house is a curse. You do not want to get into that. You don't want to be that person. Now, does anyone know what a 1031 exchange is? Okay. So, and the only reason I'm not going to get into this for a long time, but you need to understand that a 1031 exchange, I can sell this house, and I can take the proceeds from that house, and I can use it to buy another house, and the proceeds from this first house, how much do I pay in taxes on that first house? $0. All of that money, it never goes to my bank account. It is held in escrow, and I have to buy another house, and there's a time limit, so you want to talk to someone about this and make sure you have your ducks in a row. But if you are in too much house and you're paying too much in your mortgage payment and it's killing you, sell that boat anchor. Take whatever proceeds you get from it, go down in house. You won't pay any taxes, and you'll have a way smaller payment, and all of a sudden you will sleep like a baby. Okay, so there are options to get in a better place, and you don't even have to get, punched in the face with taxes. So if you're in this situation, or maybe not one this drastic, but one that's bad, cut that boat anchor loose and find something that you can afford. Okay? I told you, Joanna and I, and I'm not suggesting you do this. Okay, I'm just telling you what we did. When we got married, all 8 of us lived in a 950 square foot house, 2-bedroom house, for the first 10 years. Me, my wife, and 6 kids. Now, we didn't start with 6 kids. We were married and had no kids, but we had 6 kids faster than you'd think. Okay, and we lived in a 950 square foot 2-bedroom house for those 8 years. It was difficult, but we could afford it. And it was way below our, what we were making and what we could afford, and it allowed us to save up, so there's nothing wrong with sacrificing now and then getting that house that you want, 10 years down the road, 15, 20 years down the road. Okay, let's see. What do people do when they get extra money? They spend it. Nobody spends it on things that will move their financial goals forward. Now, you good people are different because you live on a budget, so you have a plan for your money. But we want to avoid that trap, that famous trap for the poor, which is spend it all. Okay, when we get a bonus, when we get birthday money in a card from grandma, whatever it is, we find $20, on the street, or we find a nickel in the couch cushion, we throw it at our mortgage. And we get on a plan and we start doing that, and all of a sudden, you would not believe how motivated you will get to save money and throw extra money at your mortgage until you start doing it. When you start doing it, man, money comes out of the woodwork. Pam, what you got? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So if I got an inheritance, I just had a bunch of found money, okay, I would suggest that everyone go through these steps one at a time, just like we said, okay? So if we don't have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months, okay, so we're already to this point. Okay, for me, so here's the thing. I would throw it all at my mortgage. And part of the reason is whatever your mortgage is, it's $1,200, it's $1,600, in the so many years it's going to take you to pay that thing off, you are going to be able to catch up on the extra money you were not throwing at investing while you were paying off your house. Because after 2, 3, 4 years, you just freed up, $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 a month that was going to your mortgage that now you can throw at an investment for the future. So I don't care what age I am, I want that thing paid off because that gives me freedom and it gives me options. When I'm tied down to that mortgage, my options are limited. And people always say, well, you can sell the house. Not necessarily. I've been in this valley for over 20 years. There are plenty of times you can't sell a house, or you got to take a bath on it. Now, it's going to change, and within 2, 3 years, you're going to be able to sell the house again. But if something happens and all of a sudden we got to sell out and move somewhere else and take care of, great uncle so-and-so, I want to be able to do it. And if I don't have a mortgage, then I have options, Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone that gets, yeah, yep, you're only paying property tax. Don't get me started. America, land of the free and the home of the slave. Okay, Nick, you got a question. What do you got?
Yeah, so lifestyle creep, you want to avoid it.
Yes.
Is there this goes against probably everything I'm saying.
Okay, good. Going against everything I'm saying. This will be bold.
Is there a recommended, just say you start earning $10,000 more a year?
Yeah.
Big raise, whatever.
Yes.
Is there a recommended, okay, we're going to allot for 2,500,
Uh-huh.
25% lifestyle creep?
Sure.
Because you hate your car.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, you don't need the new car.
Yeah,
but
okay.
you like one that you can
No. That's great. Okay, so Nick's saying lifestyle creep happens and we're making $10,000 more a month, which is a totally reasonable scenario, okay, especially, well, yeah, no, I mean, think about it. You and your spouse, okay, you both graduate from college. You get your debt paid off, so that goes down. You get a promotion because you're both professionals, and all of a sudden, okay, you got it, okay? That's not an outrageous, it's not an outrageous number. It might sound like it if you're 18 years old. You're like, $10,000 more a month? That's a great increase. Okay, but plenty of people have seen that. Okay, you get a promotion, to VP in the business you're in, all of a sudden you're making a lot more money. So here's the idea. So the question was, we don't want lifestyle creep to eat away $10,000 a month because that's going to kill us. But, surely I'm sick and tired of my wife having to drive that beat up old jalopy, down the street every day where the hubcaps are falling off and rolling down the car. Okay, so all you want to do, and you don't have to drive that vehicle for the rest of your life. Does anyone know the idea or the principle for cars and your yearly income? Okay, so your yearly income, okay, your all vehicles, every single thing with wheels and a motor, okay, should be less than 50%, okay, of your yearly income. So that's the idea is, I make $150,000 a year. The absolute most I am allowed to spend on a vehicle is $75,000. Now, is that a good idea? No, that's a very expensive vehicle, and we probably don't need it. So then we start looking, okay, well, if I really want this vehicle, can I find one that's, not brand new? Can I find one that's 3 years old and it's still really nice, but I save half the money on it? So that's the rule. If you ever find yourself with more than 50% of your annual income in vehicles, as far as the value of the vehicle, you are overspending. So, you get that big raise, go ahead and increase that a little bit, sell the beat up old jalopy and get something that, your wife's not ashamed to show up at school functions with. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you brought up a percentage. And that's the way to do it. Did anyone recognize what Nick is doing in this scenario? What's the home run? He was living on a budget because he just decided he had a plan for his money before it showed up, and he made a decision with his spouse about a percentage for the money that we're okay with spending, and then the remainder of it, okay, we're going to start moving into all these things that we were neglecting. Maybe there's some insurance we need to get that we haven't been doing. Maybe we're not fully funding our IRAs. Maybe okay, so you start moving in that direction, you start paying off the house further. But do not think, okay, we said this last week. There are 3 things we can do with our money. Does anyone remember what they are? You can spend it, you can invest it, you can spend, you can invest, and you can give. Okay? When people have money problems, what are they doing with all their money? Spending it. So we need to change our mindset to where we find that distasteful. Right? If we get to a point where our income goes shooting up and our wife is like, okay, I think we really need a new car, and we're like, no, we need to invest this, we got to be smart with our money, and we turn into Scrooge McDuck, okay, congratulations, you've succeeded. You are going to be fine in life. Because you've changed your mindset to where now all you want to do is invest. You don't want to spend anything. That's easily fixable. Easily fixable. The problem is spend it all. Trying to drag someone away from that mindset of spend it all is a chore. Once they get to the point where it's like, no, we can't spend it, we got to plan for the future, that's easy to remedy. Yep. So, Christy, what you got? No, so that chart is meant to be starting from the mortgage on day one. But that's the reason that mortgage calculator is there. So you can use that mortgage calculator on the internet with that QR code, and you can enter in the data, and it will show you exactly how much you will save in time and how much you will save in dollars and interest. So no matter where you are, it'll still do the math for you. But that chart is if you start on day one of your mortgage paying an extra $100 or paying an extra $400 or whatever. Yep. But believe me, it doesn't matter when you start throwing extra money at your mortgage, you are going to see a drastic time period, the time period shrink drastically. We're on the home stretch. Step 8, create a college fund. According to a PayScale survey, 66% of those who pursued education beyond high school regretted their degree, type, institution, major, or taking on of student loans. So that's 2/3. So the point is, if you're not 100% sure about what you want to do, you could end up wasting a lot of time and money. That is the story of many people. That's my story. I have no college degree after a year and a half of college. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the median income for a high school graduate is $30,000. While those with a bachelor's degree make around $52,000. So that means on average, you will make more with a college degree. Most of those college graduates also have what? Massive student loans to pay back. Abram, what you got?
So is that like right as soon as they graduate?
Yes. Yes, right as soon as they graduate. Okay. Without the student loans? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you also got to remember in those 4 years, maybe 5, you weren't really making any headway on your financial future because you were in school that whole time. For us, for Joanna and I am like Mr. Anti-college. I am like so anti-higher education, it's disgusting. Now, understand, there are several lines of work where you have to go to school, and that's fine. It's not bad. What's bad is that half of a college for a 4-year degree in left-handed medieval puppetry. And then they get out and they're like, what do you mean I'm not going to make 200 grand a year? That's the problem. You can't take a degree in underwater basket weaving and think that you're going to get out and make this massive income. It doesn't work. So many college students, they do not weigh how much I'm going to pay for my education and compare it to what my education will actually bring in. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I have not found a 4-year degree that will hold up to a 2-year apprenticeship in a welding shop. Never have I seen that be better. And guess what you're doing in that 2-year apprenticeship at a welding shop? You're working a job and you're getting paid a good wage. Okay, so that's the problem with education. Education is a business now. It is not for the purpose of educating. That's gone long ago. Now, if you want to be an engineer, okay, if you want to be in medicine, you have to go through the school, and that's fine. And those degrees are fine, and working in lots of fields are fine. But just understand that if you are a graphic design major, okay, you know, your degree is not going to be worth a whole lot. Okay, I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, him and his wife, his wife's brother ended up getting a degree in art history. Now, this kid, just so you know, is a genius. He was in biology and microbiology and like all of these sciences and getting straight A's. And then he just felt in his soul that he needed to switch to art history. Okay, guess what he found out when he got out? He couldn't get a job anywhere. They called me up and said, Patrick, can you please work this kid just for a summer to help him get something? Because those student loans, they wanted their money. And I said, look, it's so easy. I said, take your art history degree and just go down to any subdivision where they're framing up new houses and show the general contractor your degree, and I'm sure you'll have a job by lunchtime. And they laughed, just like some of you are doing, because it's worthless. It's worthless. You want to know what he's doing right now? Teaching art history at a junior college. And now what are all his students going to do? Yeah, get the same worthless degree. Okay, so I'm just telling you, you want to challenge me and tell me that an art history degree is the way to go and that's how you're going to support a family? It's not. Okay, you want to go to school to be an engineer. Okay, go to school to make some money. Yeah, there you go. Okay, be a doctor. Go to a trade school. Okay, so look, where were we? Okay, so Abram, to follow up on that stat, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York also reports that 43% of college grads are working a job that doesn't need a degree. 80% of college graduates who have a degree work in an industry outside their field. Yeah. No, seriously, you work in an industry outside of your field. So the point is that for 80% of college grads, any degree would have been fine. Okay? There you go. So these are all considerations you have to think about. The average college graduate student loan debt is $39,487, and that's just the average. Many people will tell you the first step is to figure out how much to save up based on how old your kids are and where you want to send them to school when you're saving up for their saving up to fund their college or university. I think that's wrong. Step one is deciding whether you want to support them going to college or not. If your child wants to be in medicine, law, or engineering when they grow up, they are most likely going to have to get a degree. That's fine. In that case, if you want to pay for it, and the word is if, do the math and start saving. Now, this is important for parents to understand. You are not obligated to pay for the schooling of your child. I want to make that point very clear. You are not obligated to pay for the schooling of your child. If you cannot afford to save up for college, and if you try, you will keep yourself from being able to retire adequately, then do not try. Does anyone know why? So the scenario is, if you want to pay for their college, but in doing so, you will not be able to fund your own retirement, you should not do it. Why? Tanil. So their burden of paying for college in their 20s on their own will be much easier than them taking care of you, who is penniless, in their 40s. You understand? Okay. What's more important is that you have funded your retirement so you are not a burden on your children in their 40s and 50s, instead of letting them pay for their own college. They can make it. By the way, guess what? Every single study out there shows that your kids will get better grades if they have to work while going to school. All of them. So, I think the best thing to do is talk to your kids over the course of 10 years about work, finances, staying out of debt, and building wealth. And that way, no matter what they do with their life, they will be able to retire with millions of dollars. Okay, let's see. Your child paying for their own education is good for them. Every single study shows this. If you want to save for college, when should you start doing it? Yeah, the answer is 5 years ago. Rick. Yep. Sure. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that right now. Okay, so types of college funds. The ESA, or the Education IRA, it works a lot like an IRA, except it's for education expenses. It allows you to invest up to $2,000 after taxes per year per child, and it grows tax-free. And all that is great. And if you start saving when your kid is first born, you're going to have, plenty of money in there to help them with their education. Your money does grow tax-free, but you must spend it on an accredited college. Also, the beneficiary must use it by age 30. What if they don't want to go to school? Well, that's a problem. It can be used for K through 12 private school tuition. Can be used for vocational school or things like textbooks, school supplies, tutoring. If your child doesn't end up needing the money, you can transfer it to a sibling so they can use it for their school expenses. But the problem is, some things that we want to do in life aren't through an accredited school, and that's a problem. So personally, I have never been a fan of these for that reason. I think saving up for your kids' college education, just using the market and mutual funds is probably going to be a real good idea. It will not grow tax-free. But if they decide not to go to school, you're not running into, some of the problems that come along with that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's risky to put it in there,
Uh-huh.
but then they can probably pull it out tax-free because they don't need a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
while they're in college, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, not 100% tax-free, at a pretty low tax rate.
The moral of the story is, if you want to support your kids to go to college, and you can do it, start saving immediately. Okay, start saving when they're young. That's what's going to help them. There are ways to have that money grow tax-free, and that's great, but there are benefits and detriments to those plans, so just be sure to look them up. Have your kids apply for scholarships, apply for aid. They can take AP classes and get free college credit while they're in high school. They can choose a cheaper school. Do you know that there is absolutely no correlation? I'm going to repeat that. There is absolutely no correlation between the school that you graduate from and the amount of money you make in that field afterward. The statistic for the correlation between those two is so small, it's practically zero. Okay, what they find is it is the individual. The individual that shows up on the job that has people skills, that has a good attitude, that has good work ethic, those are the people that succeed in that field, even if they went to a community college and their peers went to an Ivy League school. Yep. They're moving. And the fact is, nothing. If you look into it, you'd be amazed how many schools you could have your kids start going to while they're in high school and getting college credit online via the internet for almost nothing. Yep. Now, I'll tell you another one. One of my best friends, he went to a trade school when he was in high school for electrical. And all of those hours in the school counted toward his residential, then his journeyman, then his master electrician license. And then in the summers, he worked for an electrician. And by the time he graduated, he was 18 and he already had his journeyman's license. He hit the ground running at 19 and was making $60,000 a year. Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, step 9, end-of-life planning. We're almost done. We're so close. But we are going to put the hammer down, and we got to get through this. And it's going to be longer than 20 minutes, so bear with me. You people ask so many questions, and I'm blaming you. All right. We all knew that was how it was going to work. Who are we kidding? All right, estate planning, the process of deciding what will happen to everything you own after you pass away. Now, by the end of this section, if you are a wife, you will thank me. And you will beg your husband to listen to me. No matter who you are, you will probably realize that you are completely unprepared for the only event that we know is going to happen one day, and that is our death. We'll talk about creating binding legal documents to make sure our wishes are carried out after we die. Your estate plan also delegates authority to people you trust to make medical, financial, and legal decisions for you if you cannot do it on your own. Do you know what happens if you die without a plan in place? That's right. The government decides. The state determines what happens to all your stuff. And obviously that will cause your family to spend months or even years in probate fighting out other family, friends, and the government in court. So, if you hate your family, then you just go ahead and die without a will and without life insurance. That's the deal. If you hate your family, don't get a will and do not get life insurance. Many of us think an estate is hundreds of millions of dollars and thousands of acres taken care of by hundreds of servants. It's not an estate. Abram, what do you drive? A Silverado. What year? A 2016 Silverado. Guess what? You have an estate. Okay, that's all it takes. You've got an estate, and you need to decide what's going to happen with your stuff. Your estate plan covers who gets your stuff, how they get it, and what happens when you die. So we're going to take a pop quiz, and we will cover everything we talk about in the quiz as we go through this evening. The quiz is to help you see how prepared you are for your death or disability. Do you have a will? Do you have a living will? Do you have a trust? Where are they? Now, if you can, you want to take this quiz with your spouse. What is the combination to the safe? What's the name of your insurance guy? What is the company's name and number? What are all the account numbers? Do you have an investment broker or financial advisor? What is their name and number? What are your investment account numbers? Do you owe anyone money? Who do you owe money to and how much? Does anyone owe you money? Who is your plumber, HVAC guy, handyman? Who's your mechanic for your car? Who do you use for lawn care? Do you have a lawyer? Who are they? What do you use them for? Do you own a business? If you died today, could your spouse run it? Could they at least successfully collect all the money owed to you and shut down or sell the business? Is their name on the business account? Who would you go to if you needed financial counseling? If you died, who would you want your spouse to go to for financial counseling? Do you have funeral plans? Are they written down? Does your pastor have a copy? Where are you going to be buried? What is the code for your spouse's cell phone? Last question, are you ready to die today? Is your spouse going to have an easy time after you die because you are organized and have instructions written down? This is a true story. You're going to laugh. When my dad died, it was on me to figure out the code, his password for everything. So it was everything from his email to his bank account stuff online, to his auto insurance, to the combination for the safe, to the password just to open up and unlock his computer. And the great news was that he didn't give us anything. And every single code was a different mythical character from a different season of Star Wars. And I had the blessed task of spending 3 months of my life trying to work out and figure out how to get into everything. No, that was the way it worked. It went on forever. Do not do that to your spouse. You need to provide your spouse with all this information. 1 Timothy 5:8. But if any provide not for his own, and specifically for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. See, we are to think about the needs of our family and prepare. Okay, we are to Rick, don't tell her the codes now. It's too late. You failed the test. Just write it down and do it when you get home. Okay, I don't need you fighting in the front row of my class. We need to make arrangements for those eventual needs to be met. And we're going to start to protect our assets. Number one, a will. A will is a legal document that tells other people what you want done with your possessions when you die. Every adult 18 years old or older needs a will. Even if you don't have much to pass along, if you have a will, you'll still save your family tons of time and money in probate. Probate is the legal process of sorting through your possessions in court after you die. You can make your own will online in under an hour. Inside your will, you'll want to appoint an executor. The executor has the following duties: carrying out your will, taking care of the state during probate, paying out any outstanding debts, making sure everybody gets what they're supposed to get. Your will does not determine the outcome of certain assets. This includes your retirement accounts, your annuities, and your life insurance. On all of those accounts, you are to name a beneficiary. If you don't name a beneficiary, that's a mess. Your beneficiary you name on your life insurance policy and on your IRA, on your Roth IRA or your 401k, the beneficiary will get that stuff no matter what your will says. So if you are not married and you say, well, I'm just going to leave it all to my mom and dad because I'm 20 years old and I don't have a lot of money, but it'll help them to bury me when I die, and you never change that, and you put their name as the beneficiary on your IRA or your life insurance policy, and then 2 years later you meet the man of your dreams and you get married and life moves on and you forget to change the beneficiary, and then you die, guess what your spouse gets? Nothing. That is a true story that I dealt with personally with a friend of mine who I married. His wife died. He changed his life insurance beneficiary over to his mom because he was no longer married and his kids were in high school. Okay, they're too young. He gets remarried. They keep talking about, oh, we got to get it changed over. Oh, we got to get it changed over. They never got it changed over. He dies. His new wife didn't get a penny of the life insurance money. It went to his mom, who to this day considers herself to be a good Christian woman, and she did not give one penny to his new wife, who was now watching her kid that she brought to the marriage and his 2 kids from his first marriage. She didn't get a penny. And the mom justified it, saying, well, if he wanted her to get it, he would have changed it. Okay, so don't think that people are nice and good and they're going to do the right thing. They're not. Okay, people are monsters. So you prepare. It is horrible. Oh, it's worse. I'll tell you the story if you want later on, but it's so important that you do this. Okay. A living trust. With a living trust, you transfer your money, property, investment earnings, and other valuable stuff into a trust while you're still alive. So at that point, you don't own whatever you put into the trust owns it. Now, most of you do not need a trust. You don't need one. The purpose of a trust is to hide your assets. So now the trust owns it, an individual no longer owns it. You appoint a trustee, the trustee looks over and manages the trust and everything that's in it. So your home, your second vacation home, all of your classic cars, your $5 million of money that you have in accounts for your retirement, all that stuff is owned by the trust. You have to appoint a trustee to manage it, but guess who you can appoint as a trustee? Yourself. And then what you do is you decide, if I were to die, I'm going to name my wife as the new trustee. So then all the assets are now managed by your wife, and it never even goes through probate. Do you know that probate, that's a public record? Literally anyone on earth can look up what you had and where your assets went. A trust skirts around that. You had a question?
Yeah, so is that where the term trust fund kid comes from?
Yeah, usually.
So it's like the parents had a trust fund and now that kid, because the term is usually used like, oh, this kid.
It's used in a derogatory manner. So the reason for a trust is to try to avoid taxes, okay, and to protect assets. So the whole goal is to try to keep Uncle Sam from getting his dirty little fingers all over your stuff and taking a big fat cut of it. Okay, there's really not much of a need for a trust unless your assets are going to exceed, several $1 million. Okay, with that being said, you got to remember, if I have a trust and I put my biggest assets in there, and let's say that's my personal home and my 3 rental properties, okay, and I put them all in there. Now, if Patrick Hayes backs up out of a parking spot and backs over someone's foot, and they're like, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to take you for everything you have. All right. What do I have? Nothing. My bank accounts, trust owns them. Okay, my properties, trust owns them. They can't sue me for anything. I don't own any of this stuff. Okay, it's a layer of protection. You probably don't need a trust. I'm just educating you on, on what to do. Now, I thought I put another QR code in here for someone somewhere. No. Is there a link? Okay, sorry. So if I didn't put the QR code in, but there is a website on making a will and getting that set up. So homework for tonight, go home and make a will. Just get it done. You can always amend your will later. Just get a will. All right, medical power of attorney. That's an agent named in a medical POA. They make decisions about your medical care when you can't make them yourself. For example, if you have an elderly parent with dementia, they're not able to process information completely. A medical power of attorney is helpful for making decisions about their care. If you are going to assign someone medical power of attorney over you, you need to provide that person a letter expressing your wishes, meaning you can't just give someone medical power of attorney and then just hope they make the right decisions. You want to inform them as to what your decisions are. Their job is just to carry those decisions out when you are incapacitated. No, so medical power of attorney is it's going to be a legal document. It's going to be filed, it's going to be notarized. It's going to be on file with the county. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you can put it on file with hospitals, with your doctor, with anybody that you want, with your lawyer, with your family. You know, you can make anyone that you want aware of it. Yeah. Obviously, it needs to be someone you trust. Okay, fellas, if you're going to make someone medical power of attorney, there is one person you're not allowed to make medical power of attorney. Who's that? Your wife. Okay, tell me why. Who knows?
The most stressful situation they will ever be in.
You got it. They get a call, 10 o'clock at night. Your husband's in the hospital. He's going into a coma. Get here fast. Are you going to be able to make decisions that he expressed he wants done in that moment? None of us are. Okay, so don't put your spouse in that scenario. Okay, give someone the job of medical power of attorney who will follow through with your wishes. Okay, not keep them alive at all costs no matter what. Okay, that's not a good idea in a lot of cases. Any questions? Okay, make someone medical power of attorney that you trust. I'm medical power of attorney over a couple people. I'm the executor of a couple of wills. If you're a pastor, you're just going to get that job, especially when you have elderly, a widow or a widower. You know, they don't have anyone. So they're like, well, I trust you, you know, here's my, you know. And then I've had people call me up and they say, hey, I'm moving up to Wisconsin. I'm going to make my brother medical power of attorney. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay. I go to my safe. I take out the envelope. I never even open it and read it. Just run it through the shredder. There you go. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's something we have to do. Yes?
So if you don't make your wife, is it a good idea to make like your oldest child? Say that, like,
Yeah, so really, it doesn't matter who you pick. A sibling's fine. The oldest child is fine. There's really no wrong answer. But if you're 85, you don't want to make your sister who's 83, you know, medical power of attorney. You know what I mean? You want it to be someone that, you know, is probably not going to have the same, you know, conditions possibly brought on by age, you know, be a problem. But that's it. You know, it's really just who do you trust to do what you want? Okay, and your medical power of attorney, your letter that you give to them can be as simple as treat me like a plant. Feed me and water me, and that's it. If I need more medical care than that, just let me go. Okay, if a machine has to pump my heart or breathe for me, I'm supposed to be dead, just let me go home to be with the Lord. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter what you want. Okay, you can tell them, I want to be cryogenically frozen like Han Solo, you know, I don't care. Whatever you want to do. Here's the point. The problem is nobody knows what you want right now. Nobody knows. So if you don't write it down and you don't give that to someone, your family is going to have a massive amount of heartache wondering for the rest of their lives. Did we do the right thing? Should we have done this? Should we have done that? And during that horribly stressful time, you're going to have morons come out of the woodwork and say, you need to do this to your wife. You need to do that. Don't do this, do that. They're all over the place. Write it down. Christy, what you got? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, you an organ donor? Write it down. Okay? All that stuff needs to be written down. Yeah. Do not pay for prepaid burial services. It's a scam. The reason is the prepaid burial service, all you're doing is keeping up with inflation. Okay, so your money is only covering a cost that's going to be moderately more expensive later on. What you do is you find out, you say, okay, how much is a burial today? It's $10,000. Okay, take $10,000 and put it in a high yield savings account that earns this much in interest and let it grow. Whatever a burial is going to cost in 10 years, you're going to have more money than you need for that. So, sure, cemetery plot comes down to you just need a place and you don't want it to sell out. They're hot commodities. People are dying to get in there. Barb.
So to those ends, does the Bible say, one way or another, does it describe burial versus cremation?
Yes. Christians get buried. There is not one place in the entire Bible where a Christian is cremated. Every single pagan that dies in the Bible is not buried. They're cremated. Yeah. Yeah, the Bible, cover to cover. You can't find an exception, like literally. It's everywhere. There is not a single, as a matter of fact, you ready for this? Joseph, okay? Joseph, with the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, 1 of 12, goes down to Egypt with his father Jacob. Jacob dies, and Joseph says, we will bury you in Canaan land. Jacob insisted that I be buried with my fathers. They embalm Jacob. 30 years goes by, they become slaves. 400 years go by. They get freed with Moses. They wander in the desert for 40 years. They go into the promised land with Jacob's bones. He is buried in Canaan land. That's how serious it is. Yeah. So no, the Bible doesn't command one way or the other. It's one of those where it's like, you know, how many examples do we need to see before we see which way God? Okay, so here's the idea. I knew this was going to come up, and I knew this was going to eat up a lot of time, but it's a good point, and I love talking about it because everyone gets cremated today, and I love making everyone mad. So what does burial represent? An expectation of a resurrection, right? The dead in Christ shall rise first, and then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together in the clouds, and thus shall we ever be with the Lord. Okay? Jesus was, isn't that enough? Like, you know, it amazes me how many people wear the stupid bracelet, what would Jesus do? And they love showing off that bracelet until what Jesus does goes against what they want to do. And then they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So burial is an expectation of a resurrection. That's the idea. Okay, so our bodies are going to be changed. Does that mean we're not going to be raptured if we're cremated? No, it doesn't mean that. Okay, what does the Bible say about, so who was in the Navy? Someone was in the Navy here. Okay, Rick, how did you ever bury someone at sea? Oh, okay, you never went to sea. Okay, fair enough. It's all right. Louis, you were on some boats going around the world. You ever see anyone buried at sea? Yeah, but they still had to, you know, transport you somewhere. Okay. So when they bury you at sea, they literally put you in a coffin and right over the side. Okay? And what does the Bible say about the last days? It says, when the sea shall give up her dead. Okay? So those buried at sea are still resurrected. How much is left of the people buried at sea? Nothing. Nothing. Okay? They're fish food. They're gone. It's the same with people who were at Nagasaki or Hiroshima. They're incinerated. That doesn't change the fact that we are resurrected. Okay, but that is the idea behind the Bible. Okay, so you ready for this? What is a funeral for? The living. Okay, now, the way that it's been done, and it's been done this way for so long, is that in many cultures, and this is Jewish, they will dig the hole, and they will have a pile of dirt, and they will lower the casket, and everybody takes, at the very least, a handful of dirt and throws it in. And it is part of the grieving process. So we can say, I buried my brother today. We take a handful of dirt. I've been at funerals where there are 6 shovels put out there, and all the family comes through, and all the guys grab a shovel and they throw in a few shovelfuls of dirt, and the ladies come by, sometimes even the elderly ladies, they get at least a handful and they throw it in there. I buried this person today. It's part of the grieving process that we can all take part in that. In my will, okay, there are instructions that that is how I will be buried. And that a machine is not allowed to pick up dirt and throw it in that pile. My sons will take shovels and finish the job. Louis. Yeah. Yeah, the Bible has every single Christian, every single Jew in the entire Bible is buried. The pagans are cremated. Cremation came about, it's a pagan process, the burning of the bodies.
Okay, what if there's a Christian in Japan
Uh-huh.
and a nuclear war hits you?
Yeah,
You're basically cremated.
sure. Well, I'm not saying you get a say in it. You can die in a house fire and there are no remains. What I'm saying is, you know, for those of us that get a choice, here's my challenge to everybody. Show me one example of a Christian or a Jew in the entire Bible that was not buried. One example. That's all I need. Show me one example and I'll tell you, go ahead and get cremated. yeah. Who was caught up. Yeah, so if you're raptured, that's the exception. I'll find a few for you. Yeah. I know of one in 2 Chronicles for sure that comes to mind, and it was a king who sacrificed his son and then burned his body. You know, but I'd have to look him up. I mean, that, you know, I got a lot of scripture memorized, but you know, those verses aren't jumping out at me. Yeah. Okay. His son. Yep. Okay. Yep. To help in battle, and it works. Everyone is so shocked by what happens. They're like, we're done. We're going home. All right, medical power of attorney. We went over that. A living will is also called a healthcare directive. It explains your wishes for end-of-life medical care, like whether to resuscitate you if you're in a non-responsive state. If you have a medical power of attorney, there's no need to have a living will. You can simply combine the day-to-day healthcare decisions and end-of-life care in the medical power of attorney. Letter of instruction. A letter of instruction is not a legal document. You should provide personal instructions that are not included in your will. And while it has no legal authority, it can make things easier on your family by spelling out your special wishes. Because it's not a legal document, you can write and update your letter of instruction however you want. Make sure it's easily accessible and someone like the executor of your will has a copy. Oh, no. No, you can get online for $150. You can do all this. Yeah, exactly. LegalZoom. There's lots of them. You know, you don't need an attorney. Okay, you ready for this? Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Michael Jackson's estate, no, it wasn't Michael Jackson. Who was it? No, Michael Jordan's still alive. I don't remember who it was, but it was a singer-songwriter, it was an athlete, it was somebody with immense wealth, hundreds of millions of dollars. They died, their will was contested, it stood up, got the will on LegalZoom.com for like $50. Yep. Judge is like, nope. It's what it says, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So, you know, don't feel like you're missing out on anything. People are like, oh, well, if you don't have an attorney, you know, what if you're making a mistake? Have you ever thought that maybe your attorney might make a mistake? Okay, they can make mistakes too. Okay, financial power of attorney. This person you name as your financial power of attorney will help you manage your money. access your accounts, or act with legal authority to manage your financial affairs for you if you become incapacitated. Obviously, needs to be someone you completely trust again. Okay, now if you go on this sheet to these pages, you see all these blanks? Okay, this is your homework. You and your spouse go home, fill in the blanks, and make an end-of-life plan for both of you. Your pastor can help you with this. Start out by filling in all those blanks in your notebook, and that will save your pastor a lot of time. Your wife, or if you're single, whoever you are survived by, needs a lot of information to take care of your estate. Look over the page where you fill in the blanks. Let me know if you have any questions. Your list may include more people. You should personally meet with those people and set up a plan for when you die. The first page is all the information your spouse will need when you die. The second page is your funeral and burial plans. Any questions? I'm happy to help anybody with this, because you get this. You ready for this? I'm probably the one that's going to deal with it no matter what. So I'd rather help anyone plan for it if you don't have someone else. If you have someone else that's going to bury you, that's fine. I'm just saying, if you don't, I'm happy to help you. That's one of our jobs. Pam, or sorry.
Yeah, just real quick, the medical power of attorney,
Yep.
is that, are they all separate legal documents, or are they all, the will just deals with possessions?
Yes. Yeah, medical power of attorney is a separate document, and that is for the purpose of making medical decisions for you if you become incapacitated. Another separate document for financial power of attorney, so that they have access to all your bank accounts, they can pay your bills, they can use your money for whatever you want them to use it for. You know,
And that document is a document you give to that person, you both go, you get it notarized.
you get, yes,
And that's what makes it, and that person
yeah.
holds on to it.
Yeah. And all of these documents should be copied, put in a folder, okay, and given to whoever is going to be there to aid in the process of doing this. The executive of your will should have all of these documents together, okay? Your pastor should be made aware of these things, okay? A family member that's going to help out, whatever you want. But none of this stuff is, there's not a lot of, sensitive information here. And we're only giving this information to people that we trust. We just want the people that are going to be involved with our end-of-life plans to be aware of what we want, what our wishes are, and how they're going to be involved. So, yep, that's the idea. All right, you ready for this? Counselors. Your wife will need godly counselors to help her after you die. Do you know why I talk about this to husbands and not wives? Because statistically, you're going to die first. Psalm 1:1 says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly." You want to direct your wife to godly counselors that will give her sound advice in your absence. The first person on this list should be your pastor. Your pastor won't be an expert in every area, but he does care about you, and he will be able to point you to competent people who could help in any area. Proverbs 11:14, "Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety." So make a list of counselors to keep your wife safe. Someone for real estate and construction, someone for finances, someone for spiritual guidance, someone for emotional support. Okay, now this sounds it can sound kind of weird or creepy or stupid, but can you think of a surrogate husband? Now think of this. Someone who can act on your behalf to help guide and protect your wife when you are gone. Maybe that's your oldest son. And that's the one that you trust, who has your wife's best interest at heart, and that's what you want him to do, is to be that surrogate husband who will be there to help with whatever is needed. Maybe you have a couple who you're best friends with, and that husband and wife, they're the surrogate husband, where you want your wife to know, look, you should really go to these folks. They love you so much. They're going to be there to help you. We trust them completely. Okay, they're who I want you to go to if you need any help when I'm gone. Okay, I'm sure there is a right and wrong answer for who you pick, but It can be a different person for everyone. It can be a couple for some people. It can be whoever you want, but you should have someone that you guide your wife to and say, you know, you're going to need some help. I want you to be taken care of. We trust this person. Go to them. Louis, you got something?
Yeah, that's a good thing. We do in our family, like twice a year we get up. It's like you were saying about the passwords.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, you get deaths or families or friends of death, you always learn something. So I meet with my parents twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
We go down the whole thing of what you're saying about, and I bring my stuff over to my
Yeah.
parents as well and my other siblings. Another thing is like these secret safety deposit boxes.
Yeah.
That's another huge.
Yeah. If nobody knows about them, that stuff's gone.
But you can start asking questions, you
Yep.
write this down, and questions you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Then a friend dies, especially the passwords with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
What a nightmare. So it's like, what is your password? Put it in the safe. Here's the safety deposit keys. These
Yeah.
are the insurance. These are all the powers of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And the life insurance, all insurance policies and all this.
Yeah.
All the titles.
Yeah. Yeah, there are literally billions and billions of dollars of unclaimed wealth from people who have died and no one knew about it, and it's all hidden.
Everyone
Yep.
knows what's going on, so it's not a big shock. So
Yeah.
it's on the same sheet of music.
Yeah.
It's very beneficial.
Okay, last thing we're going to talk about, special instructions. Do not assume your wife knows what you've been doing all these years. Okay, she cannot read your mind any better than you can read her mind. And if there's one thing I've learned, I cannot read my wife's mind. I can barely read her looks and her glances. Forget about her mind. Okay, I need to write my wife special instructions, lots of them. This information should be written down and kept with your estate planning paperwork. Number one, a personal letter. Now, this should not be read by your wife. It should be sealed in an envelope for her to read after you have died. You should give her permission to move on in her time. More than that, you want her to move on. She can get remarried. She should enjoy the rest of her life. So many women wonder if that's okay after their husband dies. So just tell her, okay? In that letter, tell her how much you love her. Tell her what you loved most about her. Tell her about how you admired her spiritual life. Mention something about the way she talks or the way she looks. Talk about what she was like as a wife and a mother. Tell her about intimate things and funny things that only the two of you know about. And this letter is giving her one last thing to remember you by. And you might want to give this letter to a trusted friend or your pastor to be given to her on the day after the funeral. Number two, instructions. Depending on the age or your age, these instructions will be very different. Children, if you have children who live in the house, remind your wife of the plans you made together and the vision you have for your family. She is going to want to know what your desire is with your children. Assets. I've seen a widow suffer financially because she was not willing to sell the second home her and her husband used for vacations. She hasn't been to that home in 3 years since her husband died, and she refuses to sell it because it reminds her of him. He needed to write her instructions saying, sell the house. It's fine. If you need it, sell the house. Do this. Okay, her husband, I know for a fact her husband would have told her to sell the property and use the money that she needed. No instructions were given. Be sure to explain what to do with all your stuff. Any questions? Yeah.
What are your thoughts on annuities? And purchase your widow annuities when you're
So here's the deal. With annuities, an annuity is like the frame of a car. Okay, so it's very basic and you can add on to it whatever you want. There are laws in place that prohibit you from putting over a certain amount of your wealth into an annuity. Okay, because once you put money into an annuity, it's locked up. I am personally not a fan. Okay, there are plenty of ways you can get a guaranteed rate of return and still keep a cash value so that if you're in a pinch, you can still sell it. So for me, if I'm going to use an annuity, it's only going to be for a certain percentage, a small percentage. And I say, okay, this much we're going to put into an annuity, okay, for this reason. We're going to guarantee funds, okay. But some people will throw everything they have into them. I am not, well, first of all, that's illegal. You can't throw all your money into an annuity. But a lot of people will put a lot more money into them than I would suggest. So for me, it would be a percentage. But the problem is, whenever you lock up your money for a long period of time, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And life changes. People get sick, people die, people lose jobs, we have to move, we have to take in a relative, things change, and a lot of times you want to know what makes all those massive changes in our life easy? Cash. That's what makes massive changes in our life easy. So when our cash is locked up, well, can't do anything with it. I don't even like CDs for more than like 90 days. Okay, and the other thing is, if you want to do CDs, the idea is you don't even throw all your money in a 12-month CD. It's better to do them in to break up your money into 25% blocks and throw it into a 12-month CD every 3 months, so that the very most you have 90 days before 25% of your money frees up, rather than throwing it all in one 12-month CD, and then it's locked up for 12 months and you can't get to it. So that's why I'm not a fan. Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen, and whatever happens, is going to be a financial emergency. Good question. Any other questions? I know you guys are dying to get out of here. Okay, next week is the most important week.
Free gifts.
You get a free gift if you show up next week. Okay, so please make it back. I will hang around for a little while for any questions. You guys have been wonderful letting me go through this. I hope it was a help to somebody. And remember, there is, opportunities for, financial coaching or more questions and answers about this stuff later on. So I'm available. With that, let's have a word of prayer and we'll be dismissed. Nick, would you be so kind as to pray for us?